Aries and James. Aries and James here. Today we're going to talk about a topic and we're going to just deep dive into that one topic and hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, this week it's all about accountability. What we want to talk about with accountability is at what point are you accountable? The topic of conversation came from this week, Tim Westwood hitting the news
Oh, yeah?
for his previous misdemeanors, sexual misdemeanors and misconduct over 30 years as a DJ.
Yeah, misconduct's the important
Yeah.
word, isn't it?
Yeah, so but after watching the documentary and listening to the girls' accounts, their stories there was a lot of similarities in their stories. So the one thing that kept coming up was that they were alone in a strange place and they're alone with the man and he's their only way of getting home. That was one thing that I thought
Okay.
was a bit dodgy.
Yeah, that's peculiar that you've left your friends, you've left people you've come there with.
Yeah, you're always alone with this man. Well, this man's always. I mean, the situation that they find themselves in is that they're alone, like where he's their only kind of way of getting somewhere. There's another thing as well about when they're in the situation, like because they didn't use the word rape. They didn't use the word rape. They was kind of like
Maybe like dancing around it. Or maybe legally they couldn't say it.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But like it was just like they were suggesting it. It was like they were suggesting it without saying it. So that was strange again to me because I'm like, if you've been raped, they're just gonna say rape.
Yeah.
Like yeah, he's raped me, and this
But there are
documentary.
blurred lines, and we'll touch on this, but okay, maybe this will be one to bookmark for later. But there are blurred lines between full-on consensual sex and rape. Like there are blurred lines and different accounts in between.
Yeah. So, but there was like they were
Like
suggesting
misconduct
things.
is something in itself. Like you should be able to go and say this person has been, sexually askew, or like they've misconducted themselves around me, and that should be enough of a, maybe not a legal allegation. I'm not sure about the laws around it, but definitely it's worth speaking up, even if it's something that you can't pinpoint and say it's criminal.
Yeah, but then isn't that subjective? Because a sexual misconduct for one person is not a sexual misconduct for another person.
You
So
can,
then it's like
but in this case it's like 7 women saying the same thing, no?
yeah, but then
So
what is he being punished for? Like what?
That it was repeated behavior, and now there's 7 black women that are speaking out about it. Not taking any sides, but that's from what I understand. I didn't watch the documentary. I just read an article or two about it. But there are blurred lines. That's one point, and the other point that you're making is like it could just be one person's account of misconduct, and somebody else might think, "Oh, he grabbed my bum." Like, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
Like Tim Westwood, I've had a crush on him for years, and he grabbed my bum. Of all the bums
Yeah.
to grab, they could have been, which is personally makes me cringe. But someone could think that way. Like the women who throw themselves at R. Kelly still and are into his defense. So, you were saying about one person's account.
Well, the topic of the show is the accountability aspect of, like,
We
you're
got
in the
straight into
situation.
it there. Gosh, it's a hot topic.
You're in the situation. At what point are you accountable for the situation that you're in? Because the way that they're portraying it is that this demonic guy has come, kidnapped a black woman, taken her into the middle of nowhere, and forced her to have sex. That's how they're portraying it without saying it like that. Like they're using suggestive language as to that's what happened. But at what point are you accountable for the situation that you found yourself in is my question. For one, because we can't let women continually put themselves in that situation and think that nothing couldn't happen. Within the situation that they're in, you're alone with a man, and in your head you're thinking, there's nothing sexual here. But in his head, he might not know that. He might think, okay, this this person has come back with me to this place, my house, or wherever he's taken them, that could be on the cards. So me doing something inappropriate, like it's easier to do something inappropriate when you're alone together than in one of his raves in front of 200 people.
Yeah, you're alone with the man, but the man, he's also alone with you. And never in that situation are you going to feel as a man that I'm unsafe. But the onus lies with the usually...
Not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, because there used to be a reputation of linking South London girls. And then...
I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, so there's a reputation of linking South London girls. So men are kind of, when they're going to South London, they're aware of their surroundings.
The women themselves, or their brothers, or
the men. So
or...
reverse it. The man knows the reputation of going to like Peckham to link a girl, so he's got his guard up. He's aware of certain situations not to put himself in, and if he does put himself in a situation, he's
so maybe
okay.
Your advice should be twofold. Then what you're saying. So this is just me dropping some gems on your perspective. That's what this is all about. So what I'm saying is that it's not about just teaching women and young people like not to put themselves in these vulnerable positions from like a female perspective of safety, but both ways, like making sure that if you don't want to be in a situation where maybe something sexual could happen and you're meant to be meeting up to talk about music, don't do it in a hotel room or somewhere that's too private. Like, just
to be honest,
have your manager there. If you're talking about music, have your band there, your musician, have someone, a guitarist, something like.
Exactly, and that's why when they're telling the stories, like when I'm listening to the stories, like there's gaps in the story because it doesn't go A, B, C, D. When they're telling the story, it goes A, then we're at D, then we're at E, then we're at G.
They've cut out
when
the
they're
details.
telling not when they're telling the story. So they're like, so I'm listening to it, and then they've cut to the point where, how have you ended up alone with this man and he's undoing his trousers? What's happened before that?
Yeah, it's like they've not mentioned the bit about when they accepted. I can't speculate, but what I could imagine is like. So let me just go to the definition that I liked about what does accountability mean. So accountability is an acceptance of responsibility for honest and ethical conduct towards others. So in honesty, your intentions are, I want to go and talk about my music.
That wouldn't have been for all of them though. That's one of them. Is an example. But we can talk about that one as the example. You've gone to meet a famous DJ. You've gone to meet a famous DJ to get your record played. How do you end up alone somewhere with this person, for this person to be in the position to give you oral sex?
Yeah.
How does it get to all the way that far? Like, because once you say no somewhere, it becomes rape. But the person hasn't said that they've said no. They said they froze, or they froze, and then it just happened.
So I do think that saying no is just one verbal reaction, and there's other ways. Just because you don't verbally say no doesn't mean that you're wanting it to continue. You can freeze, and your body is saying no. You're shutting down from this invitation. Just because you don't say it verbally, I'm a strong believer that you don't have to say things verbally for you to not want it.
If you say
it's
no,
harder to tell, of course.
But if you say no in your head, it becomes rape. So
there's some women who they've said nothing,
it's consensual.
and then they've said nothing, and then their partner realizes they're crying.
So does that becomes rape then because the person's crying?
I don't know what the legals are around it, but I do know that if you change your mind at any time...
Yeah, you can withdraw consent at any time, but how do you withdraw consent?
Some people don't have the impetus to do it at that moment. They just freeze, or they break down, or it triggers something maybe from childhood where they've been in that situation
you got consent
before,
at
you
first.
don't know.
You got consent at first. So you've got consent at first.
Let me flip it round. When you want to initiate sex, it's not always, I want to have sex with you. Sometimes it's non-verbal. The same way the I don't want to have sex with you can also be non-verbal. There's subtleties around the way women and men interact with each other.
But that's the danger of the the non-verbal communication.
But we practice it. When
Yeah,
we want
but
to initiate, it's all,
But then,
come here, girl, sit,
so
sit here,
when it
sit
all
here.
goes right, that's all cool. The non-verbal and not saying nothing and the innuendos and
Yeah, all
it's
of
all
that
cool when
banter.
everything goes right, but when it goes wrong, all of a sudden it's rape, abuse,
It
sexual
can still be that.
manipulation.
It can still be that. I still stand by that.
It's
It can still be that.
it's a double standard. It's a dangerous double standard to have.
I think
To say that someone can withdraw consent without saying.
I think
That's a
women
dangerous
can,
double
because
standard to
you
have.
don't always have the confidence. Because sometimes,
But if you don't have the confidence, why are you in that situation then?
have you ever?
These
So
are
you've never had
life-changing
a shocking.
situations.
You've never had a shocking moment that you just can't speak. Like you're lost. You know that phrase, "lost for words."
Yeah, but it's different.
Okay.
No, I can't say I've had that in a sexual situation
Okay.
where someone's done something that I don't like and I'm frozen and lost for words and can't say stop. So I can't relate to that aspect. But
Then you're
I'm not
fortunate,
dismissing.
and there'll be people
But I'm
listening
not
to this that
dismissing.
think, good for you.
I'm not dismissing that can't happen
Yeah.
because maybe there are there will be times where someone said something and I can't get the words out that I want to get out.
Yeah.
In terms of anxiety and stuff. But then that's what I'm saying. Like, so if you know you're a person that can't say no, are you gonna put yourself in a vulnerable position, or do you not know that you're someone that will freeze in a situation like that until
No,
it
you won't
happens?
know before. But let's talk about that vulnerable position for a second, because why is it that a famous DJ is gonna have a 1-to-1 with you, who's, no offense, but a nobody?
Who's a nobody?
These artists that wanna,
Yeah.
sell their music. No, sex aside, misconduct aside, I'm not even talking about genders here. Why would you be so lucky to get put on a kind of world or maybe national stage just from one, what's it called, listening sessions? I'm not in the industry, like.
Yeah, maybe it is a listening session.
Yeah,
Or it's
like,
just to get your music to the DJ.
So why would Tim Westwood of all people want what like at some point? It's kind of like sometimes you need to guard yourself, and this happens a lot even within my work, where if someone was really, really high up, say like the chief financial officer of my whole company was like, "Can I have 2 minutes to talk to you?" I would bring my laptop. I'd say, "Can I bring my manager?" Like, why? This is such a big scale and such an important thing for me to just go in alone.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. Because what if you say to me, "I'm thinking to downsize. Who's the weak link in your team?" I'm being really like radical here, but I wouldn't go into that meeting alone, because that person is so much more my senior, so much more inexperienced, like in greater experience to me. I would go in armed.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like in an industry where you're very much out here hustling. I guess it's not mixtapes. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, demo
tapes or stuff. And then you've got Tim Westwood, who's got his own radio show. Like, why would he want to have a 1-to-1 with you? And you would go in without your producer, without anyone who can speak on your behalf. Maybe he might agree. You might be proposed to do something, say like a show or a snippet. Don't you need like representation to back that up? Like, why would you go in alone? If this was an official meeting, you'd go in officially, and it would be about the professionalism.
Yeah.
So it's just about those warnings, sex aside and gender aside. Like, I just think it's about going into these kind of scenarios where you can position yourself for success.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Like, if someone said to me, I want to invest in your business, I wouldn't just go wearing my best dress. Like, no, I would go with my business plan. I'd go with my laptop. I'd take my business partner.
Yeah. Yeah, so at what point, so that person is 17 years old. Do you think they should know that at 17 years of age? That
I think
music is a business? Or do you think that they think this is the only way I'm gonna get my music heard. I need to.
I would think it's a red flag if it's a hotel room. Like, we're talking about my music and it's not in a studio.
Yeah.
It's after hours.
Yeah.
What progress can we really make at 10 p.m?
Yeah, because there's a lot of the excuses that they was given on that show is I was young, and now he wouldn't be able to do what he done to me at this age, but at 17 he could. So what? Why is it that the age that you were, let's say they're 30s now, why wouldn't someone with power be able to manipulate you at 30 but they could at 17? Like, what's the difference?
The difference is the perspective, and we've all done things where, like, I personally know what it's like to, when you've got a teenage crush and you just think, like, you do anything for that person, but looking back, you recognise the adolescence, you recognise the naivety. I think you need to see that in hindsight to know what it was.
So does the naivety of, like, age and youth make you the victim? Like, because the person's much older.
It does with child abuse, yeah. Because you don't know better.
But not child, because like 17.
No, but they're still developing.
Unless we're saying
right?
17's a child, which a lot of people do. What do they childrenify? I don't know if there's a word for, but you know, like babyfy. They make someone who's able to make someone who's able to make like rational decisions, because I think at 17 you are able to make irrational decisions. You'll probably just make more irrational decisions based on age, but you're still capable.
Yeah,
like,
you're still capable of making
knowing
decisions,
what's right from wrong. You're still
most of them are
capable.
wrong.
Yeah, but but
but
still,
you're given that autonomy to, what's it called, sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's one when you're 18. Well, when you're 17, you can buy a car. Like, there's independent things you can do. You can move out of your house. You can live on your own, and you've got to be responsible for certain things. You can be a mum at 17. You've got to be responsible for a whole baby. So, if anything goes wrong with any of these situations, like you're driving and you crash, are you now not accountable because you're 17? Are you now not accountable if your child starves? She was 17, a 17-year-old mum. She shouldn't be to blame for that.
No, but in the case of, if we're using that analogy of the car, in this Tim Westwood scenario, it's like being handed the keys and someone's not told you that there's a problem with the tyre. So yes, it's your fault for crashing, but you've been given a false start because there's a problem here. The problem of him being this predator that they're saying, they might have known it speculatively that that's the kind of commentary around him, but it's different when you're in that room. And from the articles I read, they were quite graphic, where, you know, you're reaching over to grab a glass of something, you turn around. Sometimes he would tap and make you turn around, and then he's there undressed.
Yeah, but
like, you're at a deficit without knowing.
Yeah, I believe those things probably happened, but it sounds worse when you're recollecting it many years later, because like in comedy, like they have them scenes where the woman goes to the toilet and then you see the man undressing and he's on the couch naked, and it's like a funny scene. Then they'll be like, laughing as comedy.
And the same would work when a woman is like trying to seduce you, and then she just goes to the bathroom, comes out in the lingerie, and she's like, oh.
So you could have been you've seen all of those things over life, like those media images in your head, and you've like calculated that's a form of courting. Like, you're alone with someone, you want things to start popping off. What do? You get naked. But he might have just done it in a, you know how West was just corny. So he's just corny with everything that he does. He might just be corny with the way that he pursues getting sex.
Why did he have to pursue getting sex by saying, let's have a meeting about your music and your career?
But I don't know, maybe he, like, maybe the
like,
girl,
the girl somebody without using that as the carrot.
Yeah, the girl probably presented herself as, I'm a musician. I want to hear you see it, but that's probably like the protocol. But like, okay, if you're serious,
I'm sure
set
there's
up a
other
meeting.
girls that go around him, and people.
But they probably don't proposition him for music. They probably don't even try to keep it professional like that. And maybe when he saw that she's become unprofessionally,
no, but
he might have just took advantage. I don't know.
So he does these nights out, as I understand it, back in the day, He could
up
just
to
go
now.
up. Okay, up to now, you're clearly a fan.
I'm not really a fan, but I know like what's
Okay,
going
you
on.
know his I don't know, his work. But he can just go up to someone and say like, "Oh, you're looking real nice." I don't know. I've never chirped anyone,
But
but
he might not have that tact.
he
Like,
has the tact to say, "I want to talk
he's
about
a-
your music."
He's a white middle class person that is way older than the scene that he's
I
in.
think he's got more tact than you're trying
As
to
on
portray
the
right
way
now.
that they was describing how he was moving
But
to
that's
them.
because that's
It
in a
didn't
situation
seem like he
where
seemed
he's
like
got
he
the
was
advantage.
socially awkward. Yeah, they will say that, but I don't believe that. I just think he's just fumbles him when he's alone with a woman. It's just not. He just got this fumbly tactic of getting things done
but
because
these
none of them
women-
said, "Oh yeah, he's done this," and I've said no, and he's forced me. They've always said, "Oh yeah, he's undid. He's got naked. I've frozen," and I thought in my head, "Okay, I've just got to go along with what's happening," and we had sex. That it was never I've frozen. He's got naked. He's forced himself on me. I'm saying no. He's pushing himself on. So that's where I'm like, this is a bit strange.
So
no one's saying that so they're just allowing him.
forceful.
They're just because he's done something fumbly. They've just allowed it to happen. So in his head, what he does works because he like taps you, gives you an eye look. Yeah, this is what's going down, and you do it. He's like, okay, this has been working for years. Why am I gonna change to something else that I don't know that works when this works all the time? No one's accusing me of
We don't
rape.
know if this works.
No,
we only
they
know.
said in the thing.
Okay,
like,
so yeah.
that was that was the common denominator with all the stories that I heard.
But these are
He's done
stories-
something that in my head I'm thinking that's a strange move for a man to do. You just got that's like it's weird. I'm not saying it's like it was just weird. I wouldn't say it was abusive or anything. It was just a strange thing for him to do, but it's got him to what he wanted.
But these are only 7 women. You're telling me he's only been with 7 women? You don't know what tactics... Okay, let's put it this way. These are the tactics that he used on these 7 women that have made their accounts, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what confidence he has or doesn't have with other women. This could be the way he is with girls who he knows he's put in a vulnerable position. When he's with his other women... Because I believe sometimes you take on different tactics depending on the scenario.
Yeah, it's true.
So this could be not even just the type of girl, but the situation. Like these are the one. This is how this is the card that I play when it's like a music wannabe and a fan.
Yeah.
And then when it's like my equal, I play this card. Or when it's like an older woman, who knows what he's into, I play this card. Like you don't know what these other experiences are. And this is what my gripe is with these kind of documentaries is that you never hear from the women that said no or the women that have said, no, like if you want to talk to me about my music, like we'll talk on this, that date and I can bring, my band or whatever. Like you don't hear the other sides to the story. So with that, you just hear these 7 accounts.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you that he's an awkward guy because that's just how he has been with these women. And like you said, all their stories sounded similar. So they could have grouped together. And sometimes with groupthink, you hear something enough times.
Yeah.
And I've seen it myself when I was on jury duty. Like the witnesses, they had about 2 years between the incident and the trial to talk and discuss and chat about their experience, and then they kind of all sounded like they were singing from the same hymn sheet. So with that's probably why it sounded so succinct. But you don't know what he's like with other women that he moves to. This could just be the awkward impression that he gives when he's trying to do his misconducting.
Yeah, maybe.
But would you have been happier if the women just came out and said, "My regrets with Westwood"? Like if that was the title of it, like "My regrets."
I think it would have been.
As opposed to abuse of power.
It would have been a better narrative. It would have been a better narrative because it would teach. I don't think young girls could learn from their accounts, and in the way that the documentary was presented.
Did they ever own up and say like, was there any, like to your question about accountability? Did they ever say, you know what? Because in R. Kelly, wasn't there one woman who said, I really should have known better. I think it was a Spanish one, and she was kind of saying like, I really shouldn't have been hanging around with the people I was hanging. On reflection, she could look back and think, I was young and dumb, but this shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But did these women ever say like, my
No,
mom
some,
didn't even know I was going
oh
out
yeah,
and
yeah.
all
That's
that kind of
what. Yeah,
stuff.
none of them said that, and that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm saying when the story would jump from A to D. The
Mm.
BC part is missing out. The part where you sneaked out at 17. The part where you're going alone with Westwood when you shouldn't be going alone with Westwood and you're 17. The part where you sneaked into a rave. Not saying that this happened.
Yeah,
But
but there
the
was
part where
some,
you sneaked
yeah.
into a rave and with a fake ID, like all these things that can get you into a situation that's
That
that's way
others
over
can
your
learn
head.
from as well. Where,
So
yeah.
in the story they needed, because there was parts, there was one times where there was a couple people that's like, oh yeah, he wouldn't be able to do that with me at this age. Like,
But they
so
never
they're
give any
basically saying
lessons to
they're
watch
basically
out.
saying they were naive in as into how they found themselves into the situation, but that doesn't paint him as what they're trying to paint him as a rapist that exploits young black women, because it just sounds like some people that just got in too deep and then couldn't back out of the situation that they were in. Because none of them said, yeah, I got raped. One of them hinted at it, that with the oral sex one, that was the most dodgy of the story. But I'm just thinking, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know. Like, you can't just say no. Someone's trying to go down. How, like, it's a bit. How does someone get down on you without a bit of force if you don't want it to happen?
Yeah, and we don't know like how much force he was using, and
Yeah, none of them really said, oh yeah, he forced me to do this, and then like that's what I'm saying. If it's rape, they're just gonna say it's rape. Yeah, he raped me, and he's been getting away with raping these girls. But no, like they've cleverly worded it. And if you want to bring someone down, they would just use the word. So have they been told not to use that word?
Yeah, I mean legally they can't use that word because he's not been accused, he's not been tried, he's not been.
And no one went to the police, they said. So at the end of the documentary, so after watching the accounts, there's like, yeah, none of these incidents in Westwood's 30-year history, no, he's had no criminal reports against him. No, but none of these matters have been reported to the police. He denies it. So nobody showed their face in the video.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the documentary? It's 6 anonymous people who has said something about someone, and the person's just said, yeah, that didn't happen.
And you know what's interesting as well, not to take sides. I don't think I've even told you this, but I've had an experience where a friend of mine said that she knew a producer, and I was bitten with the songwriting bug at the time, and I took my guitar and my music and I played some music for him. But my friend was there the whole time because she was the connect. So she was in the room. So what's interesting is with these stories is that not once did I hear them say, oh, I was playing him my song or we were discussing a verse. It's like the intention to talk about the music in my career just is completely evaporated the moment we enter the room. It's like, did you abort the intention as well as Westwood? Because obviously he had his hidden intentions, but then it's like no one really even spoke about the music.
Yeah.
Because at least with the R. Kelly one, you could hear them talk about like, oh, I would sing for him a couple times, or like at least he kind of, you've understood that this was about the music for them.
Yeah.
But we never hear that from these women. We just hear, I was having a drink, or I turned around, he was naked. Like, I don't know. So in terms of narrative and the opinions that these women, do you think they're trying to shape an opinion, or they're just sharing their stories because...
No, I think they're trying to build the case that Westwood is a white man that targets young black women underage. Well, they tried to insinuate the underage because in the documentary when they done the little clip with R. Kelly in there,
I'm surprised that a white woman hasn't come into...
Yeah, so what they're trying to say,
come into this
so what they've tried to say,
what they've
tried to say is Westwood only targets. He's a white man that only targets black women. They're like trying to paint that narrative.
You're telling me he's done his whole career as this? Well, it sounds like he's some kind of womanizer that they're trying to paint out, that he specifically only is with young black girls. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know if he has a wife as well.
I don't know.
If he has
I
a
don't
wife.
know.
I don't know if he has children. I don't even know. Yeah, so.
But by not, so it's about, there's a balance here. There's sharing your perspective, which I can get on my soapbox and talk about my experience at, a job with a manager, and do all the, the subtle connections to put together a narrative. But it's like, how much can we keep doing that, where we're not saying, okay, this is why I took it to the court, and this is why the trial is going on, and this is, it's more like,
I think it's a social media assassination of character type thing. Like, I don't think they're people are they're using people for to make certain agendas more powerful. So if they can get enough leverage on this, white men target young black women for abuse, leverage on that.
which we know black women are victimized, so that it takes that kind of narrative.
Yeah, so
and then the narrative of like the older man taking advantage.
The more traction you get with a narrative, the more money you can make. And that's like how
But what money are they really making from
if something can get as big as Black Lives Matter, and look how Black Lives Matter, that you can make millions and buy a £6 million mansion,
but they're
you can win
unnamed.
democratic
They're
elections.
They don't have any.
The people that made money from Black Lives Matter?
No, they're the
the people that's
that
unnamed, but the people that can latch on to that agenda, because there's people out there like victims with like.
But how do they make money? Are you telling me during this during this documentary, when you have to
if there's an organization out there that looks out for vulnerable black women, and then they can paint this narrative that they're vulnerable, they can make money from that. Like, there's always clout somewhere to chase, no matter what because the documentary was very agenda-ish.
I just don't see how they can tangibly get money in their pocket from coming out with this story, other than to share their experience. What I think they could have done more is to maybe, keep the ladder down in terms of warning others, so that they don't fall into the same mistakes. Not to say that this was their fault in any way, but some of the signs you can look out for when you're in the industry. Because many women have talked about it.
But they didn't really give solutions in the documentary.
But that's what I'm saying. They could have. They could have used this as an opportunity.
And that's why I couldn't take it seriously.
This is what I did, and it's led to this result. And I,
not that I couldn't take it seriously, but like I couldn't is this worth my outrage or not? Because nowadays you've got
I think you probably were scratching your head about what is it they're actually trying to accuse him of.
Yeah.
They've got very little evidence other than hearsay. Like, it wouldn't really stand up in court. They've waited so long to talk about it. They never went to the police at the time.
Yeah, and he's 62 now. He's almost in retirement age. So because he's quit his job after the allegations, which was obviously a political correct thing to do.
Yeah.
But he would just probably move. He's 62 now. He'll probably move on to some sort of independent.
He'd probably been made to quit the job. That I don't give him any credit for quitting his job, because a lot of the times it's the companies and the monies behind it that tell you to tie.
It's like, we can't have these sort of you've got to be clean cut nowadays to work in the industry.
But I wonder if I think they definitely could have shown more examples of how they can give advice to people in the industry, men and women. I think
and that's what this show's for.
You have an opinion on it, and I want to just make you think about things differently, because there is no perfect victim. No one's gonna be beyond reproach, and for things to have happened to them to be like their fault or labeled as their fault.
I don't think it's about it's not about your it's not about fault and blame, because no one asked to be abused in the situation. But if you've walked into something that abuse can possibly happen, it's about, okay, in this situation I know that this can possibly happen. It's just about knowing that. It's about knowing that you shouldn't be alone with a DJ.
But even if you had the accountability of knowing, okay, I shouldn't be alone with this DJ, you could have gone in there with a friend, and that friend could have been drugged, and anything could have happened still.
Yeah, but if you're drugged, that's different. That's rape.
Yeah, that's totally criminal. But you can still go into a situation thinking it's safe, and for it to turn left.
Yeah, because to be outraged in a situation is that someone's walking around free when they're acting criminally. So I'm trying to find the criminality that's happened. It's because what are you your sexual misconduct is not always criminal. So like that's why I'm saying they cleverly used words when they was describing like even the show of
No, but they talk
even with
about
the show.
groping in the article as well. Did they talk about that in the documentary
Yeah,
about the
so yeah,
groping?
so with the
Yeah.
grope, with the grope, what do we do now? What do you get charged for a grope?
But
Is like a grope a misdemeanor when it goes through court? Like, is it worth?
I think if it's done enough times,
No, no, I'm saying
if you
like
have enough
if
accounts,
what's the punishment to stop someone from groping you?
I
Because
don't
you can
know.
just grope someone and run. You can be like, oh, okay, that's a fat ass over there.
But
Let me grab that and run.
But I'm sure that's in the
What's the
eyes of the law.
consequence?
That's the same way, like, you can get slapped on the wrist for, I don't know, like these fines when you're on public transport and stuff.
Yeah, but that's
Like, I'm
exactly
sure you can
if the
get. I'm
punishment
sure you can get some kind
if the
of.
punishment's minimal,
I
it's
might look
not.
it up actually.
If the punishment's minimal, it's not gonna stop it from happening because that's just an urge. That's an urge that someone
No, but
gets.
what about stalking? If someone's stalking you, it's not rape. It's not like they're forcing themselves on you, but it's still not a way of approaching. I don't care if you're shy or that's like your approach. Like, it's not right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that's not right though, but it's like it's what's gonna stop a person from doing it because you have the urge to touch this person because you can touch a person like if you put your arm around someone like you're walking through a club like a lot of men used to do, they'll grab the side and squeeze their way through
Apparently,
and
yeah,
be
groping,
escort.
fondling is considered sexual assault.
Yeah, what's the punishment for sexual assault? Because
It can start from
what they need to
3 years.
do, what they need to do is make it more attractive for someone
So
to
now this is gonna be
report.
my Google search. Like the research before I go out and grape somebody. How long? How long
Yeah,
can
because
I?
is it worth it? You have to be like, okay, if this person is it worth it? Where can I get the evidence from? Is there cameras around? I've been groped in a public place. Where's the cameras? I need this person prosecuted. Is it
If you're
worth
found
the
guilty,
hassle?
the maximum is 10 years. I don't know what the minimum is.
But relating to that, so a grope, yeah,
So
but
anything from 3 months to 10 years, depending on.
so a grope, you might get 3 months imprisonment.
No, but this is 7 people saying it, and then if it becomes a criminal case, like you say, people like clout, there'd be loads more people coming forward saying, "Oh, me too," and then yeah, he could easily get 10 years.
Yeah, so
But they didn't go. There was one account where someone mentioned that they went to take a picture with him and he groped them. That's different to feeling like I had to have sex with him in the not hotel. I keep saying hotel, but in the room we were in.
yeah.
And because he'd gotten naked,
Okay, so
like,
there was
it's different.
okay with the grope one. There was a dodgy part to her story again. So she got groped the first time, but they met again to take another picture. So if someone's groped
What
you,
did she say about that? Let's just touch on that. What did she say? Like,
I can't remember it
she just
exactly.
went to another night out and saw him, and
It was like they were cool.
Okay.
It was like they was cool and to come and then he done it again maybe. But if he's got away with it the first time, of course he's gonna do it the second time because he's thinking, oh, this person's like, because she was a fan, so she was a fan, and just gassed to meet him. They're taking a picture, and then he slid his arm down and I don't know, put it on her bum or something.
I've had
And-
that where like you meet like a boyfriend's friend, and he hugs you a bit too tight for a bit too long, and then you, in my head, I just mark them as, okay, I'm not gonna. You take the piss basically. So I'll hold this nugget for next time. So after being groped, to go back and take another picture when that's literally what happened the first time.
Yeah. What's that saying? So what's that? So at what point should you be outraged? Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, do you as a person need to
But
just
that's
be
the
outraged
accountability
anytime?
thing. She never said. There was never any onus of, oh, I thought it was a one-off, so I took a picture again. There's no like. I think what this documentary sounds like is lacking is the self-reflection and the the introspection on
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah, but a
You
couple
know?
of them did, but they were. It just sounded flaky. It just weren't solid. It weren't like there was like, okay, yeah, looking back, I shouldn't have. But it's still his fault, even though it is his fault.
Well, at
It's
least they say that. Then I'm happy. At least they say,
it
looking
weren't
back
convincing though.
at 17, I
Yeah.
shouldn't have been alone. Because then someone
I don't know
trying
if
to
they
get in.
specifically said that it
Oh,
should have
okay.
been alone. I can't.
Alright.
I just watched it once and I'm here. Like I didn't take any notes or, but yeah, it was a bit dodgy in the way that they were telling their story. It's like they're missing out parts. Like it jumped to the extremes were too much when describing a situation as important as insinuating you've been raped without saying it.
Well, playing devil's advocate, when you put out something like that about a public figure, maybe there's certain bits you need to omit legally for his
Yeah.
character. So that's probably why it sounds flaky and gappy, because you can't just drag someone's name through the dirt and publish a documentary like that.
But they have done though. They've done it.
No, but they've done it enough to avoid fines and to avoid...
But they've done it enough for him to lose his job. But what if he was innocent? That means that, because this is setting a precedent, because they might be using Westwood as a scapegoat. Like, oh yeah, he's white, but he's a wigger. We don't care about him. Like the establishment, the racist established system. They say, okay, this is how easy it is to cancel someone. Yeah, we're going to cancel every one of you black people after this. And we're just going to get people to say you've done this. We're going to keep them anonymous.
But that wasn't the
And
case.
all you lot's jobs is gone.
It wasn't agenda driven like that. It was these
No, but
women
it's-
setting out their accounts.
But that could set an, because this
Okay.
started from a
Okay.
Twitter hashtag, cancel Tim Westwood, because Tim Westwood comes across as a creep.
Was it cancer? It was surviving.
Yes,
Tim's,
or whatever.
So you don't even know or care
But-
about the hashtag. You're
No,
not
but I'm
part of the
saying
movement.
it started from a hashtag
Yeah.
to him losing his job, and that's a public figure with minimal
it's
evidence.
taken, what,
It's just in
11
someone's
years?
account.
It's not like he's...
But that leaves everyone else
But he's
in
had the
a
time.
vulnerable
He's had the
position.
time to come out and say, you know, like, to do his counteraction and
Yeah,
say...
he
this
said he
wasn't
done it. He said it's not true. That's it.
I think if someone's made a whole documentary, you should come out with more than it's not true. You should come out with why you should
But that's a
defend
bit.
yourself.
That's a bit. That's the
But
like
isn't that
you're
what's
forced to
happening-
do too much. You end up looking like R. Kelly when he was crying on that show with Gail. You just end up looking crazy out here, like because you've had to come and defend something that you haven't done. Like if someone's saying you've done something and you're
R. Kelly hasn't done
no,
it,
but
though.
no, what I'm saying, R. Kelly looks crazy because he had done it. But if you're someone that hasn't done it, why do you need to come out? R. Kelly had done it, so he had to come and be like try and plead for his life. But if you haven't done it, something and some random people just made allegations at you and you are forced to come out and defend yourself. That's a bit much. That's giving cancel culture too much power.
Yeah.
Because anytime someone has an agenda, they can get into a chat room and be like, okay, who we cancelling this week? Yeah, let's
But
go for it. Let's see how far we can get with this one.
But that's the disguise about the blessing and the curse about cancel culture, is that you're like the hot topic and then it'll be somebody else. So it's not like we're cancelling enough and making, enough of a say about who we cancel because it's going to be somebody else. You just have to wait for the tide to turn.
Yeah,
So it
because
doesn't
when
mean
it
anything.
turns the other way, it's
It
gonna
do-
be it's gonna be a destruction.
No, but it doesn't mean anything when they've forgotten about you and they're on to the next target.
No, but if you let's say Tim Westwood was in the peak of his career with his DJing job, and he's had to quit
But
his
you
job
don't
now.
know if these allegations have started from them and he's, battered them and made them go away.
What over time?
Yeah,
you
all this
saying?
groping and stuff.
No, but his employers have said they've never been any allegations against him. It's not like the R. Kelly one where over the years we'd seen the tapes. Everyone used to make jokes about it. There ain't no rappers and people out there making reference to Tim Westwood and little girls.
But it sounds like it's subtle and it sounds like it's enough to get away with. And sometimes that is what people do.
Yeah,
I know it sounds kind of menacing and you think, oh, he's not that calculated. but maybe just by default, the way he goes about it,
No, I just think
you might not have known it was something. We
I
had to
think at
Google,
those,
didn't we, if it was criminal? So some people might not know.
I think at those times, that was within the culture of the rave scene, which I've seen with my own eyes. There was a lot of things going on that nowadays you're getting cancelled for, but back then it just used to happen. It was just all part
I
of.
don't know about that rave scene, to be honest.
It was all part of the. It was all part of things that used to happen. It's like even like dancehall, like a dancehall event nowadays.
Yeah.
The young people might see that and think, "Is that really what went on back in that day?" That everyone's getting cancelled. That's too much sexual activity for a rave. Like I don't even know. These youngsters probably go out and they're even allowed to touch each other. They're the one standing 6 feet away and they're trying to swap Snapchats. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, can I have your Snapchat?"
COVID friendly.
And then you talk on Snapchat. You're in the rave together and you can't interact. But then after the rave, you're just on Snapchat tweeting. So instead sending your snaps out. Yeah, well, you was looking nice today. Blah blah blah. Yeah, we were gonna meet up, and you was in the rave together.
No, I get what you mean. Like, but even to that point about rape
Yeah,
culture,
send me a nude.
I was very, oh God, I was very. I never went to those where the women would be like hanging off the balconies and the men would just be like, I don't know, daggering or whatever that move was.
It was a bit wild. It was a wild scene. So Westwood raves could get a bit wild depending on what he was playing. Like some wild things used to happen at Westwood raves.
Do you think he played up to it? Because obviously he was promoting like, you know, wear condoms, guys. Like, so he knew that sex was involved in his nights out.
I think he loved it, but he never hid it. He never hid, like, you could catch videos of Westwood moving to women, like flirting and acting like just looking like a creepy white guy. Like there's videos out there, but it's not untoward. It's just creepy behavior. Just like, oh yeah, he's a creep. But if someone likes him, they'll be into that. They'll be into the flirting. Yeah, this famous white DJ's flirting with me, and I like white guys. Yeah, that's the one that I want. And then it doesn't become assault. Then it becomes flirting, and yeah. So that's where I am with it. I'm just all about it's not as black and white as they paint it out to be. Like, you can paint a narrative from a culture of like a DJing culture that attracts, like, because he used to do raves that would attract people in their early 20s. Like the type of music that he played, it was for a young audience.
Yeah.
And he was usually older than his audience, so of course he's gonna attract younger girls. And yeah, but does it mean did he premeditate that? Yeah, I'm gonna be a DJ to prey on young girls. I don't think so, but it doesn't mean that he didn't do what he done. Like, just because those girls remained anonymous and their accounts are sketchy, it doesn't mean that didn't happen. Like, and it's not for them to be dismissed just because of the nature of the documentary. But like, there's a bigger picture to the allegations. Like, there's a culture that people are trying to stop. Like, and those movements like Me Too and stuff are trying to change, like, that culture of like males groping females and just treating them like animals and stuff, which is a good thing. But then there's a lot of like bringing up old accounts just doesn't make it the movement credible, because
in this scenario, it doesn't make it. It would have made it credible if there was, like you say, the criminality was there. The intention was there, but it's a bit of a blurred one here where we both agree that what he did wasn't right. We both agree that we side with and we believe these women's accounts. It's just how the documentary is blurred, and I don't know whether that's because of what they were able to say or not say, but it skips ahead and it doesn't actually offer any advice to someone maybe in the music industry now. It doesn't give them any watch outs.
Yeah.
So I think overall we do agree, and we also think that the documentary itself, maybe this is just the first one, and someone needs, there's so many Michael Jackson documentaries, so many like R. Kelly ones. Maybe this is just the first one, and then someone might build on it if there really is a case to build on it. but someone has to be the first one to come out and take it from a hashtag into, you know, accounts and make it into something.
Yeah.
And they probably just did it to get it out there. And yeah, I definitely agree. There's more to be done.
Yeah, because it's about changing the culture, because men they will have their urges. They will have those sexual urges which
And women too.
manifest.
I don't think it's just the
Yeah.
masculine thing.
Yeah, that they manifest in what can be considered sexual assault and sexual inappropriateness, like sexual abuse of power and things like that. It can manifest as that, but it's all a cultural. It's all about changing the culture of sex. Like it's about, because the onus
But I
always
think
used
that
to
is
be
happening now.
Yeah, that's
but
what they're
it's just
doing.
that these women are looking back to a time where, you know, and we don't know when they were alone with Westwood if there were bodyguards and security outside. So what are you gonna do? Run away from a room and then there's two big guys outside? Like, I can understand the fear in that situation if that is allegedly how it played
but
out.
then if it did happen, how did you get into that situation in the first place?
Because the intention was music, not that I heard them
Not
say,
even-
"Oh, I played him a song," or I, you know.
But are you gonna put yourself in danger for music? So like,
You might think that's your big break. You know how I was saying
Yeah.
earlier about I wouldn't be so lucky to believe that someone would of that caliber wants a 1-to-1 with me.
Yeah.
But someone might think that's my big break.
Yeah, it's true, and people take risks for the like they think about, they might know the risk, but they want the bigger reward in the end. So no risk, no reward. That's the saying. But also,
Yeah.
if a person knew the risk, then that's fine, because then. But it's like, if you didn't know the risk, what age are we teaching someone about these risks for them to be able to be accountable for their actions?
I think it goes both ways.
Because like people
you
will
might
be like, yeah, you can't blame the victim, and it's victim blaming just to say, but you have to point out at what point, like looking back on yourself, because it isn't even, because the person has to live with it. It's them that has to live with what happened. It's like, how could they have stopped that? Because they might have a daughter. So what you're gonna teach your daughter? Are you gonna teach your daughter, do the same thing as me, and this man shouldn't do that? Like, yeah, you should be able to be alone with a man, with a strange man in the middle of nowhere.
Like making
and he shouldn't do that to
exception.
you, because this is 20 years later now. And yeah, are you really gonna put your child in danger like that? So it's like, you gotta be able to know warning signs, keep yourself safe. As a man, woman, whatever you're doing, like, just don't put yourself in a vulnerable situation.
Yeah, I think also just if it is about business and it's about your career, keep it above board. You know, just go in with the right backing, let people know where you are. Don't, you know, like, bring who you need to bring to help you make important decisions about your music and your career. At 17, I can't imagine that you'd be able to answer all the questions with a DJ about your schedule, about your, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that's what we
Everything,
got to teach new
yeah.
artists then, is that you keep music business,
Yeah.
and you always have an associate with you, even if you just bring your parents. You're like, I'm too young to have a business meeting by myself. My parents might not know nothing, but you can't exploit me in front of my mum
Yeah.
or my dad or my uncle, my auntie, my brother.
Yeah, because you might say to that person that's your associate, oh, I'm not doing it for less than this much. And then with chat and banter, you might be like, oh, you know, you might wiggle a bit on your asking, and then there's someone there to vouch for you and say, no, like, we were expecting a little bit more. And I think that's important. Because remember when we watched King Richard, and they had that meeting with Venus and Serena about the Pepsi.
Oh, yeah.
And then the parents were there to account for them and, you know, to stand their corner. So I think it's important, keep it about business, but then what about when it's not? What about when you're just attracted to this famous person? you want
Yeah,
something to happen,
then
but
it's
you
not.
don't want it to happen
Then
in a
it's not.
way
Then it's
that's
not rape.
uncomfortable.
So don't let it become. Don't let it blur because there's really women out there being abused and raped. So there's really women. So don't blur the lines of what rape is and what rape isn't. Like if you've regretted the situation after, don't make your situation.
That's why I asked you, it would have been better if they had just said, like, I regretted it and it's a coincidence, or it's a narrative where these other women have also regretted their time with Westwood because of how he approaches and initiates sex.
Yeah, I can't say that because he could be in the wrong. He could be a wrong 'un. I just think there needed to be more transparency in their stories as to how they've got into their position. Like they're leaving out the parts. To me, it sounded like they're leaving out the parts where they're at fault for what happened. And because people are sensitive and don't want to be called victim blamers and stuff, people are not allowed to say, oh, but hold on, how did you end up here? Like, why are you in London by yourself and you're not from London? Or why have you ended up in a situation that you can't get out of?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, 30 years ago, yeah, I can imagine you're out on a night out before Uber, when cabs stop running at a certain time. Yeah, that person might be your only way home. I can definitely see that happening. I think they need to do another documentary. And I think
a better one.
But I don't know what the...
Because I'm sure they've done more than one R. Kelly documentary.
But I don't... Yeah, and that's what I was saying.
It took 20 years to take down R. Kelly.
This could have just been the first one of many. Like, anyone else with other stories, other narrative, if you even turned him down, come out. If you're even a partner and you saw your girl getting groped and you've got something to say, like, I think it should be a roll call for anyone who's got other perspectives and can talk about how the coercion happens and how he manipulates and how they end up in those situations, like you said, the gaps.
Yeah.
And also, what are the watch outs in the industry? You want to get your music out there. What is it? What are the risks? What are the calculated risks that you can do? Like you say, no risk, no reward. What can you do to actually get your music out there without having to put yourself in vulnerable positions? You know.
Yeah.
We need a chapter 2.
Yeah, a better put together documentary that's not agenda driven. That's a solution. Because I always think a documentary should have be solution based.
For them, yeah, agreed. But for them to come out and say why it wasn't. Like, were they fined? Were they told absolutely they couldn't, because sometimes they put that at the beginning of the documentary. They say we spoke to Westwood's lawyers and some bits of the story have been modified.
They put that at the end and they said, yeah, Westwood said they're lying. So it's his word against theirs,
Westwood
basically.
said they're lying, but what I'm talking about is when you get a disclaimer to say some of the stories have been modified for legal. Or
I think they said their names. They made their identities.
Oh, okay. They only modified their names. Yeah.
So basically, I would if this really happened, take him to court. That's what I say. Take him to court and get a trial and see because then all the details have to come out. There can't be no sketchiness in the story. We get to hear the full story once it's in court.
Maybe they tried. We don't know.
But if there's no evidence, it's like...
No, hearsay is still... if you got enough people giving first-party accounts, that's still evidence. It's just not as strong as physical evidence or material evidence.
Yeah, because in the court, that's getting thrown out.
Yeah, if you got a picture or video recording.
Yeah, so this is... Yeah, so with all these allegations that go on as well, how comes no one can get recorded evidence with all the devices that we've had for the past 10 years? Yeah, but the past 10 years. Like with
it wasn't as quick then. With those massive buttons on your phone, you couldn't quickly go into settings, go into apps, go into music.
How long have I been able to record on my phone? From those ages.
Now there's a shortcut.
From when the girl was being groped.
What?
There was definitely, because she got groped in 2007.
Oh, you mean the time period? I thought you were recounting a story.
No, there's definitely been. You could definitely get nowadays, like how Mason Greenwood. You don't know Mason Greenwood. How he got caught? Just recorded. His girlfriend recorded him trying to rape her. So that's the evidence there. That's like solid evidence
and he
that
went
you can
down?
have. Not that it's not gone to. She hasn't reported him, but he hasn't played football since.
Oh.
And he played for Manchester United.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah, and he hasn't played. But she.
so she just leaked the recording
Yeah.
without making a criminal charge.
Yeah.
So she took it to the court of public opinion.
Yeah, basically. But you can do that. So if someone's a creep,
It's cheaper. Why should
Yeah.
I put myself in fees? We're not married,
yeah, exactly.
so I'm not gonna get anything from this.
So if people are creeps, so this is where things are, where like you've got to offer a solution based to protect people. Like if a woman feels vulnerable, press your recorder on your phone. Like, and then there's no, even though it's not 100% because things can be manipulated. You could just be like, oh yeah, let's role play, you pretend. And then you're just sucked in. You're thinking, oh, okay, this girl's into some kinks. And the next thing you know, that role play recording's just out there of you acting crazy. But so it's not 100% foolproof, but it is. If the guy's a creep and he's going around,
Yeah, sometimes people
doing
take
things, just record
your
it.
phones from you though.
then that's a red flag. No phones. Okay, I'm going home. That's
what we need
safety.
to. That's what I'm saying. These women, not just women, but that's why people in the industry need to come out and say like, okay, these are the red flags. Like, you know, these are the precautions. Like, this is a meeting. Let me record it. Like, there might be something useful that I didn't quite catch the first time.
Yeah.
You know, like any meeting will have minutes and recording of it.
Yeah, there's so much things you can do to protect yourself where you don't have to come out looking like some vulnerable victim that is just can't protect themselves.
Or doesn't have the evidence, you mean?
Yeah.
Because something still could go wrong, but at that point you've done what you can, and at least then you have a strong allegation or you've got a strong concrete.
Especially if you've pressed your record and you're saying no. It's clear on the recording. You're saying no, and then you hear this guy's still trying to do something to you, which I'm sure a lot of guys do. And there's a lot of guys that don't take no for an answer. Just get him on the recording.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
Because
we shouldn't even have to be in this state, but it's just how.
No, but it is how it is. It's like everything's unfortunate, but we've got to look at things for what they are, because a lot of people is like, oh yeah, men shouldn't do this, but those men are out there. You can't stop those. Nothing's gonna stop those men from being out there. It's just like nothing's gonna stop a murderer from murdering someone. Like if they want to kill someone, they're gonna do it. So you've got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is the nature of men. How am I going to protect myself? Okay, I'm with a strange man. I don't know how this is going to go. Let me turn this recording on. Because I'm putting myself in a vulnerable position. I need protection. Like, that's a simple solution. Just have all your... If you're in your house, you think something's going to pop off, just have your recordings, have your places where you can keep safe. Make sure your friends know where you are as well. That's another thing. Because that's another thing I think that a lot of girls do.
In the documentary?
No, just in general, like when something's happened to them and why they don't want to report it is because they're keeping secrets from their friends. Like, they wouldn't have told their friends, yeah, I'm going off with this guy that I've just met at the club. That guy that I was talking to in the toilet. I'm going off with him. They didn't tell their friends that. They probably said, oh yeah, my boyfriend's coming to pick me up, don't wait for me. And things like that. So now when something's gone wrong, they don't want to tell their friends. They don't want to phone everyone because they know what they've done.
I don't know. I feel like you derailed there.
How?
Because you're making it sound like there's like a cover-up.
Yeah, but that's what it sounded like in the thing.
No, but
like,
when I asked
with
you
the
if
missing
it was
parts,
about the documentary, you were like, no, in general. So it's like, you want to use a generic example to reinforce something that's happening in this docu. Like,
no, it's like in the documentary, it's like they're not saying why they're alone with this person. Like, that's a hypothetical situation, but how...
Yeah, but your point is that they've missed some
parts of the story that we need to know how this has got here. Like, when you're chilling, how has he got comfortable enough to just get naked? Like, what are you not doing? Like, where's the what's the conversation that's taking place whilst you're driving to wherever he's going? Like, what's happening?
More details. Yeah,
because he could be like making we're gonna go back to my place to have some fun, baby, and then she could just be there just smiling, and then he's just thinking, oh yeah, she's on it, she's not said no. Like, I'm driving home, she just seems receptive. We're home now. Hey, you want a drink? Oh yeah, I'll have some drink. Like, just jolly, gives her a drink. Oh yeah, she wants a drink. Yeah,
But that
alcohol.
kind
She's
of
trying to get drunk.
that kind of honesty about all the little details showed the red flags that they missed. So it kind of works against them to be
Yeah.
that specific. But because what does
Yeah.
work in their favor is that they're looking back at a time when they were young, and it can be excused, and why they kind of hinted at it can't happen today.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much were these Westwood rave tickets compared to like a normal night? Were they on the
I don't know,
cheaper
it's just
side or
It's
regular? And he would definitely make an appearance, or would it be
The
and
Westwood rave was all about Westwood.
so there would there be like a support, and then he'd come on as a headline?
No, Westwood was just all there. It was just Westwood. There might have been like, because he used to have a DJ that would like be his support. But
I never heard about these raves. I think by the time I kind of cottoned on to who he was doing the whole Pimp My Ride thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I never really heard about the raves, and the nights out he used to host. You still have it in your mind. This just documentary is just agenda driven and
no, but every documentary is agenda
just- they
driven. It
just
was
need to
agenda driven though, because
negatively agenda driven.
because like the black thing, they kept all the victims were black. Like they don't usually, like, when there's a group of victims, they don't really highlight their race. So, and then when they was
have
talking
done in
about
the Tinder Swindler.
what did they say? All the women victims are white.
Not just white, but they're like from the Nordic countries or not Nordic. Some Nordic countries and some Dutch.
I don't know. I haven't heard them
Like
reference.
people have been talking about them as European white,
I haven't.
predominantly white victims.
I don't know. I haven't. It might not be true. Like maybe like they have, but like they kept saying all the victims are black, and then they kept referencing to Westwood. Yeah, I'm not attracted to white men. That like there was the way they was describing Westwood is like, "Oof, like I'm not one of those black girls that's into white men like that. So how could we possibly be having sex?" And he was like, "Yeah, when I saw him naked, it was the most horrible thing ever." Like it was just like, they was trying to insinuate Westwood ain't my type.
Okay.
So this sex thing has nothing to do with me.
Hasn't happened by consent.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are sort of your gems from this episode, or?
I'm on the side of you've got to just have some form of accountability for your actions. Like it's got to start somewhere, but it's where does it start? Like where does a person now become accountable? Because they would be like, those people are young, so they shouldn't be accountable. So where does the accountability start was basically what I was trying to get from asking this question. Where would someone say the accountability begins? Does it because to me I think 17's old enough to be accountable. People will be outraged and be like, oh no, 17, that's a child, that's a baby. At 17 you can be accountable for things. You can't allow, like, what society are you if people can't be accountable for their actions? Like, a 17-year-old could just reign free and do what they want.
Yeah, I hear that. So, making people more accountable at a younger age.
Yeah, I think people need to be aware. If there's this many people that are victims of abuse at such a young age, they need more education as to how not to become victims at a young age.
And about the grey, the kind of the greyness in between, about the misconduct, that it's not all groping and fondling. It can sometimes just be someone being a creep, and that should be enough for you to arm your defenses.
Yeah, if someone's a creep, like
Like
you don't give them that opportunity.
If you get a weird vibe from someone and they do it repeatedly, and you find out you're not the only one that gives off this vibe, like definitely start distancing yourself. That should just become like a normal thing.
Nice way to wrap up the show.
No, we've got some interesting topics coming up. I can't wait for the next one. Like, you're really gonna love it. So stay posted.
Yeah, tune in again, Aries and Gems. Signing out.